Hello and welcome to my YouTube video. In this video I'm going to demonstrate 3 versions of an Eye of Partridge stitch pattern. This is in one color and it gives this very subtle lattice work type look. This is in worked flat. This is with 2 colors, also worked flat, and this is with 2 colors worked in the round. This is a slip stitch pattern, and if we compare it with stockinette stitch, for example in this swatch for the one color Eye of Partridge, this is 15 stitches and 15 rows of stockinette stitch. This is the Eye of Partridge worked over 15 rows, 15 stitches and 15 rows, and you can see that it creates a condensed row gauge versus stockinette. So just be aware of that. It does condense the fabric this way, and because you're using slip stitches, it may pull your fabric in from side to side a bit also. Then we're going to do the same thing with the 2 colors. And again, I compared that. This is 15 rows of 15 stitches and 15 rows of stockinette stitch. And here's the Eye of Partridge over 15 stitches and 15 rows. And again, it does condense the fabric, not as much as the in one color, and it pulls the stitches in a little bit from side to side. And then we'll learn how to do the Eye of Partridge in the round. So stay tuned. Okay, so this is the Eye of Partridge in one color. And in order to have a balanced stitch pattern across the swatch, I start with an odd number of stitches. It's a multiple of 2 stitches wide, and a repeat of 4 rows for the stitch pattern. I'm using a selvage stitch on each edge, and in this case, because the slip stitch pattern condenses the row gauge, I am using a garter stitch selvage, but you could also use a slipped stitch selvage. So row 1 is knit 1, and it's a right side row, slip 1, knit 1, slip 1, knit 1 until you come to the end of the row, and you're going to end with a knit stitch, and because we're having an odd number of stitches, that should work out perfectly. Knit 1. On the wrong side row, we're going to knit the first stitch, purl until 1 stitch remains, and knit the last stitch to create our garter selvage, but you could also do a slipped stitch selvage. It would be just as effective. So I'm going to work that first stitch as a knit, and then I'm just going to purl to the end of the row. This is the row 2. I have the pattern written out, and you can find it down below this video. In the description, I'll have the directions for all 3 samples written out for you. And as always, if you enjoy my videos, let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. And I always love to hear comments from you if you've seen these patterns worked before, or if you've seen them called something other than Eye of Partridge. Go ahead and share that with me. I'd like to hear from you. Okay, that's row 1 and row 2. Row 3, you're going to knit the selvage stitch, and then we're going to knit 1, slip 1. It's the opposite of row 2, so you knit 1, slip 1 until 2 stitches remain, and then you'll knit 2. It's a very subtle pattern. Then we're going to turn the work, and row 4 is the same as row 2. You're going to knit 1, purl until 1 stitch remains, and then knit the last stitch. So you would repeat these 4 rows for the Eye of Partridge design. This is a very nice design to use for heel flaps of socks, or anywhere where you want a thicker fabric. This does create a thick, squishy fabric. It's very nice, very warm, but gives reinforcement for heel flaps. And that's where I first saw it, was for heel flaps. And knit the last stitch. So what you get is this very subtle lattice. Look, we can look at this swatch and see it better in the color. You can see that lattice effect. And because you're slipping those stitches, it gives you a lot of extra yarn on the back. It does pull the fabric down this way a little bit. It's very pretty. And in a variegated yarn or a shaded solid yarn, this would be absolutely gorgeous. So now let's go ahead and see how would we do this in 2 colors. When working in 2 colors, you'll need to start on a wrong side row. So I'm just going to go ahead and work over. I'm going to work a purl row here just so we have a break between these 2 different designs. So that I'll be starting with a wrong side row. And whether you're a continental or a thrower, the sequences are the same, the directions are the same. Okay, so we're going to start on a wrong side row. And we start by using our 2 colors right away. I'm using blue as my second color. And again, we're going to work the first and last stitch on the wrong side row as a knit to get that garter edge, or you could slip the stitches. You can hold both yarns in one hand or one yarn in each hand. I prefer to use both yarns in one yarn in each hand. Let me shrink this down a little bit. But however you feel comfortable is up to you. So this is a wrong side row. We're going to be knitting the first stitch and the last stitch. All the rest of the stitches will be purled. So if you're using 2 colors, you need to bring the right needle behind this color because it's going to be a purl, and we're going to knit the selvage stitch. Then we're going to purl one of the main color, purl one the contrasting color, and we're going to do that all the way across the row. And again, you can hold the yarns however you want. You can pick up one and work with one at a time, or hold both in your left hand or both in your right hand, whatever feels comfortable to you. And work until 1 stitch remains, and then we're going to knit that last stitch. Now you're going to learn a couple of interesting things in this process, because this is actually similar to working stranded knitting. I'm not stranding right now, and we're going to knit the last stitch. So we're going to turn the work. When you're working with 2 colors and you're going to turn the work, turn it so that the contrast color is on top of the main color. Now, on this row, we're going to knit all the way across with the white. We're going to slip the blue. We're going to knit all the whites, slip the blues. The blue will not be worked, but because we need to have it over here on the next row, because all of the wrong side rows use 2 colors, we're going to need to carry it across the back of the work so that it's over here when we need it. So we're going to knit the white stitches, knit the main color, and we're going to slip the contrasting color point to point. And every once in a while, we're going to catch the contrast color behind the main color. I'll put some links up in the corner here of how to catch yarns if you're not familiar with that. You use it a lot in stranded knitting. This is just one method. I'm working the white with the knits and slipping the blues. And then I'm catching every few stitches. And now again, when we get to this side, we're going to turn so that our contrast color yarn ends up being on top of the main color at the turn. What this does is it catches it at the edge and keeps the stitch distribution across the back, the tension between the stitches, even. So that was row 1 and 2. Now we're going to knit the first stitch. So we've got to bring the yarn behind the contrast color, knit the first stitch, and then we're going to work a blue above a white. In other words, a contrast color above a main color. You're alternating colors. So this is row 3. Remember, we started on a wrong side row. Don't pull your work too tight. These stitches need to be spread out on your needle just like they would in normal knitting. You don't want them squished up against each other. Then your work will be too tight. And the very last stitch we're going to knit in the main color. That was row 3. And then we're going to turn so that our contrast color is on top of the main color. And we're going to work all of the main color stitches, slipping the contrast color and carrying the contrast color across the back of the work. So this is row 4. And we're going to go ahead and catch that contrast color again. I'll do it real slow this time so you can see. Put your needle in as if to knit. Put the contrast color, the yarn from your right hand around the needle, yarn from your left hand around the needle. Take the right hand yarn off and pull the stitch through. So those are the 4 rows. It's a 2-stitch pattern, just like the Eye of Partridge in one color, and a 4-row repeat. And again, I have the directions written out. They'll be right down here. So this is what it looks like. What you're getting, it's really pretty. So the blue stitches are the contrast color, and they have all been slipped on the right side rows. And then you have 2 rows of the white colors between each of the 2. So if you're looking at this and you were trying to count the rows, each slip stitch stands for 2 rows. So it would be 2, 3, 4. So it's a 4-row repeat, 2, 3, 4. And a 2-stitch multiple. Isn't that gorgeous? This is what the other side looks like. It's a very plush, very plush. Makes gorgeous, gorgeous sock heels. But this would be pretty in any type of fabric where you want a thicker fabric. It would make a lovely cowl, cuffs on a sweater. Can you imagine that around the cuff of a sweater? Very, very pretty. So next up, let's talk about doing the same thing in the round. Okay, so I'm starting with the 1 color Eye of Partridge in the round. You'll want an even number of stitches, and you could distribute them for magic loop, double pointed needles, or I'm using 2 circular needles. Those will all work, whatever you feel most comfortable with. The first, it's a 4-row repeat, 2-stitch multiple, 4-row repeat. Knit 1, slip 1, knit 1, slip 1, all the way around. That's row 1. So this is a 4-round repeat. I said row previously. 4-round repeat, 2-stitch multiple, 4-round repeat. The first round, knit 1, slip 1, knit 1, slip 1. Second round, knit all the way around. So we're just going to knit to the end of the round. Now we're ready to start round 3. This one we're going to start with slip one and then knit one. Slip one, knit one. So the stitches, the columns that were previously slipped are now being knitted, and the columns that were previously slipped are being knit. And we repeat to the end of the round. Okay, so now we're going to work the fourth round, which again is just knit all the way around. So it's a 4-round repeat. Round 1 is knit 1, slip 1. Repeat all the way to the end over an even number of stitches. Round 2 is knit. Round 3 is slip 1, knit 1 all the way around. And round 4 is knit. So let's see, how do we do this with 2 colors? So I've added in my second color, and I'm going to hold it in my left hand. I'm holding the contrast color in my left hand. We're going to knit 1, this is round 1. Instead of being a wrong side row, it's going to be a right side row. Knit 1 main color, knit 1 contrasting color, all the way to the end of the stitches. And again, you're using an even number of stitches when you're knitting in the round. So we're just going to use 1 main color, 1 contrast color to the end of the round. And it's a 4-round repeat. So we've worked every other stitch, main color, contrast, main color, all the way around. Round 2, you're just going to knit the main color and slip the contrast color. And we don't have to worry about carrying the contrast color behind, because when we're at the end of the round, we'll be right here and we'll be able to pick this up and work with it. It'll be right where we need it. So we're knitting the main color, slipping the contrast color all the way to the end of the round. We don't have to carry any yarn behind. On round 3, again, we're going to alternate colors. We're going to start with the contrast color and then the main color. So we'll be alternating colors all the way around. Here we are ready to start round 4. And on round 4, you're going to slip the contrast color and work the main color. And then you just repeat these 4 rounds. Makes a beautiful design. And this is what you end up with. It's very, very pretty. So this is the beginning of the round. Right here you can see where I started. There is a slight mismatch. It's not something that you can change, but unless somebody pointed out, you probably wouldn't see it. I don't think you can do a jogless jog here because of the slip stitches and such. You would really get off pattern. It's very, very pretty. Let's look at the inside. It's actually quite attractive even on the inside. I think this would make a gorgeous cowl. Just really, really pretty. So we have the Eye of Partridge in 2 colors in the round. I also showed you how to do it with 1 color. Here's the 2-color flat. And remember, I caught the yarn at the edges. See where the blue yarn is caught at the edges? That keeps your stitches open so they don't collapse on each other. And it makes the work go all the way out to the edge. You don't have any gaps. Isn't that gorgeous? I love it. And then in 1 color. This is a very, very subtle stitch pattern, but it's very nice. And in a slightly variegated yarn or short variegated repeats or shaded solid, this is really pretty. This is the same thing in a green yarn. You can see it. I'm making another video showing all these different ways to do heel stitches, so keep an eye out for that. And I'm also doing a video showing how several heel fabrics in 2-color knitting. Keep an eye out for that. If you like my videos, you appreciate my work, Subscribe to my YouTube channel, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment down there in the comment section, and share my videos with your friends. Happy knitting!